Hi, everyone. I'm Stuart Kavanagh, and welcome to the After Extra Time podcast, where we talk about the big news, the big games, and the big players in the English Premier League. Today, I'm joined by a journalist, fellow Premier League tragic, editor-in-chief of the Sports Bank, and author of Transatlantic Passage, How the Premier League Redefined Soccer in America, Mr. Paul Banks. Hey, Paul, how are you going?
Good, man. Happy Premier League Eve. Tomorrow it'll be here.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's weird, a bit weird that it's kicking off on the Friday night, but I'm here for it, man. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with what you said in your preview article that with the Euro and the Olympics, it kind of didn't really go away. So, sometimes the offseason feels short. Sometimes the offseason can feel long, but this one really felt pretty short.
It did feel like a super short preseason, didn't it? We'll get all into that soon enough, though. I did want to talk to you about your book. Congrats on the book. You've got some really impressive exclusives on there with the likes of Harry Kane, Kristen Pulisic, my man Ian Rush, and Alex Morgan. Which of these interviews was the most fun for you personally?
Ian Rush was great, and he was a super nice guy. But I feel the best interview I did for this was actually in a press conference, and that was Jurgen Klopp, because he was at Notre Dame, and they played Borussia Dortmund in a friendly. And I had the very first question in the press conference, and there was the kind of manufactured controversy that goes along with these kind of things and
right.
Preseason. And I mean, you get stories out of nothing that really don't relate to anything. But at the time, there was this narrative that because they had not seen Notre Dame Stadium yet, they'd only seen the practice facilities, that he was unimpressed with the stadium. He didn't think much of it, had a low opinion of it, whatever, because the words got twisted. So I just kind of asked about that. And he was just like, does this place need commercial? Do I need an endorsement?
He's definitely one of the more charismatic ones. That's a great story. You have rubbed shoulders with some of football's elite. So I'm very jealous of that. That sounds like a great time.
Well, at the end of the press conference, some guy dressed up like Klopp. He had a Liverpool t-shirt, he had a hat, he had the round glasses. And my Liverpool writer for the site, he was there in the stands, and he saw this guy pounding pints, drinking beers and stuff. And then this guy got a media credential, and he went in and he asked him for a hug.
Oh, wow.
Klopp gave him a hug.
That's incredible. That's a great story. That's my man as well, Jurgen Klopp, coach of the mighty Liverpool. But I'm sure we'll get into our allegiances very, very shortly. I just want to stick on the book here. What was your favorite part of writing this particular book?
Definitely the big money, the ownership, what goes into that. Just really doing a deep dive. I'd say the Chelsea chapter is my favorite, because it's really kind of the Roman Abramovich chapter, and it's about his story, who he's connected to, where his money comes from. Then we get into, of course, the manager sackings and everything. But to just, obviously, Roman is not somebody who does interviews, but I did talk to two people who have spoken with him at length in real life, and they kind of said, he really is, he does care. He's all in about that. This is his thing. And he's willing to throw the money around to do it. And it to explain this to Americans, that you have these owners from different countries and how much money is involved. And the same thing with the Manchester City chapter as well. I really enjoyed getting into that, explaining to people that, the nation of Qatar owns Paris Saint-Germain, and the United Arab Emirates as a nation owns Manchester City, and this Russian oligarch who's connected to Vladimir Putin and even to Jared and Ivanka owns Chelsea. And it easily follows from that spending, $200 million on a player is absolutely nothing. It's pocket change to them.
It's child's play to them. So it is heartening for me anyway to hear that, Roman Abramovich, it's not just a plaything for him. What you're telling me is he's Chelsea blue through and through.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these guys, this is their plaything, it's their toy. But he really, I really thought they were going to go get Erling Haaland, because I'd read the stories in which Roman had said he would sanction the 150 million pounds, and I'm like, Yeah, he would. And, financial fair play is kind of has a lot of gray areas. It's kind of ambiguous. So he could probably make it happen. And then, now they did get Romelu Lukaku, and they've got all these other forwards and guys on the wings. It's I don't know. It's where you draw the line of are they buying trophies or not? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what sports are all about. It's about competing. It's about putting the best team on the field you can and trying to win all you can. But obviously, what Chelsea was before 2003. You know what Manchester City was before 2008. And it's very, very easy to kind of like slam them for just, buying silverware.
Absolutely, it is, and that's what I was kind of getting at. It is heartening to know that even if there is this squillions upon squillions of dollars being invested in him by a bit of a sugar daddy situation, it's nice to know that he's actually got a bit of love for the club. So that is heartening to hear. Anyway, the book is a huge success. Everyone listening, go out there and get it. I can't recommend it highly enough to everyone. On the topic of listeners, Paul, why don't you let them know where your Premier League allegiances lie?
I'm United through and through, and we've got our club's going to get going pretty soon, obviously, with the season starting up on Saturday. The guy who runs the United Supporters Club of Chicago actually designed the cover for my book. He's a good friend of mine. He's the guy that's been kind of working with the pubs and all this. It really began for me in 2011 when there was a press conference at like the most ritzy shishi hotel downtown, and they were playing the Chicago Fire, the local MLS club, in a friendly, and I was just like, oh wow, this guy's a knight. This is Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm
That's
like, have I
incredible.
ever asked somebody in a press conference a question who was knighted? This has got to be a first. And
Yeah, that's wild.
it was
So
yeah, it was,
sorry to interrupt you there. So you actually got to lob some questions at Sir Alex Ferguson.
I did, and it's funny. At that time, it was all about can this young, scrappy kid named David De Gea step in and be the new number one? And then here we are a decade later, and Dean Henderson has supplanted him. And
Yeah,
then when we went outside, and then I see the whole rock star entourage, and it was just ungodly hot that summer and ungodly hot that time, and people still went out in the heat to go see it around. And I got to be there, like you said, I got to rub shoulders with some big names. So it's pretty cool.
that's incredible. That is truly incredible. Well, I won't hold it against you that you're a Manchester United fan, being a Liverpool fan myself. I have huge respect for Sir Alex Ferguson. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and I was actually saying he's probably the best manager of my lifetime. I don't think there can be any argument made about that. And I'm actually a little bit envious that you got the opportunity to lob some questions at him. So that's fantastic.
Well, we've got a good reciprocation going here because my publisher, the guy who runs the publishing house, is a Liverpool fan. My photo that's on the back of the book, or not, well, actually not on the back of the book, the one that's on the website was taken at Anfield. And like I said, my favorite interview subject of all time was the hugging German Jurgen. So we're rivals, like we're on the opposite sides, but we coexist pretty well, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of mutual respect there. I like it. It's good. Okay, so usually we only tread Premier League waters here, but it would be remiss of me to not touch on the biggest news story in football at the moment, the Lionel Messi transfer saga. He's left Barcelona, his club of 19 years, I think. He's landed at PSG. What are your thoughts on this one, Paul? What do you think about Leo Messi landing at Paris Saint-Germain?
I think there's a lot to be said about the concept that this could have been the greatest individual club career in history. And given how long he was there, it does hold water. I would say that this was definitely something that was in the works for a while because, things move so fast. He went from, 3 weeks ago, we thought it was a done deal. He reached a verbal agreement. And then he's saying goodbye to the Catalan club and he's crying. And it's just emotional farewell. And then 2 days later, he's smiling and there's a party at the Eiffel Tower, lit up in red, white, and blue, and everybody's happy. It's really kind of surreal in a sense, in that, this is everybody, will tell you that it's Ronaldo or it's Messi are the best players alive, and then they'll tell you that Kylian Mbappe is maybe the heir apparent to them.
Absolutely.
And
yep.
And then, there's this Neymar guy who's only the most expensive player in all history.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you're like, is this fair? Is this even right?
Yeah.
How is this possible?
Absolutely. It is interesting that you say you feel like it was in the works for a while, because now I don't know the full ins and outs of the financial structure, if you will, of La Liga, but I have heard and read, just doing a bit of research on the topic, that if they had actually renewed his contract before it expired, they could have kept him on the books. But because they actually let it expire, they had to submit it to La Liga. And then La Liga's looked at it and gone, even at 50%, which is the minimum you can do with a contract renewal, is 50% of the previous deal. That's when they've said, oh, no, sorry, that's not going to fly. Why didn't they just re-sign him before the contract expired? It seems a little bit odd to me.
No, it is extremely odd. Everybody, I think, that's followed this closely has wondered, what are we missing? What's going on behind the scenes? What's the other factor we're not being told here? Because like Javier Tebas has always been so publicly against the concept of Manchester City trying to sign Messi. And, obviously he wants to keep Messi for La Liga. So La Liga wants to keep him. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they were both on the same page. He wanted to stay. Barca wanted to keep him. So if all three entities, the league, club, and player, are all on the same page, then how did this fall apart?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a great question. I think, is it Laporte? Is that the guy's name who took over at Barcelona? I don't know if I've got that right.
Yeah, I think he's a club director, Laporta or something.
Yeah. So apparently he got elected on the back of "I'll keep Messi at Barcelona." That was his whole campaign mission statement, if you will. So maybe there's something to that. He didn't want to be seen to be going back on his main promise. I don't know. This is all speculation. It's fascinating to think about, though. Do you genuinely think that there was another destination for Messi other than PSG, considering his astronomical wages?
I think there is only one that you could ever consider in that city.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I don't understand the Jack Grealish signing either, because it's like you have all wingers, and they paid all this money for him, way more than and obviously when they went after him, that wasn't going to happen, but who can afford him?
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely it's interesting when you think clubs like Chelsea, they weren't even a consideration, and they're owned by one of these super rich owners, and when they aren't even a consideration, it just makes you think about the other stratosphere that clubs like Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City are working in.
Yeah, I maybe we can even argue now that the concept of the big six in the Premier League, and then Real Madrid and Barcelona, they're always 1 and 2, or they're with United 1, 2, and 3 on the most valuable list or the richest list every year. But the way it seems now, I would almost say that City, Chelsea, and PSG are on their own level, and then it's everyone else is far below them.
Everyone else is just playing catch up. Absolutely. So let's talk about on the pitch. Do you think that Messi can deliver the Champions League this season? Do you think he's going to have an impact on their chances to win Old Big Ears this year?
I think it's going to come down to, really, are we going to finally see a so-called fantasy team, the ultimate team on paper, deliver? I mean, is Poach, is he going to get everybody on the same page? He's going to fit everyone in? Is Mauricio Pochettino going to make everyone happy and make everyone, because how could you bet against anyone else right now? Like, how could you possibly think it'd be anyone else? Like, there's no other team in the world that is anything close to what they have. It's insane.
Absolutely. It is insane. You think about their squad last year, which, let's be honest, they were no slouches last year. And then they've added the likes of Hakimi, Sergio Ramos, Gini Wijnaldum, and now Leo Messi. I mean, honestly, if injuries go their way, and in football, there is always just like a little bit of luck that you need. So if they can get that little bit of luck and keep their main team on the park, might as well start inscribing their name on the trophy right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, like last summer, Chelsea was the only team that was spending in the transfer window, and they, I call them the champions of the transfer window because they absolutely slaughtered it. And PSG were doing that before Messi. PSG, granted, they were signing a lot of guys on a free and giving them good salaries, but they were getting good players. And I was like, man, I thought they were Champions League favorites even before Messi.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about they signed Donnarumma as well. Just a goalkeeper that won Player of the European Championship. So
yeah, just the greatest Italian goalkeeper ever.
So yeah, they're looking pretty good. They are looking pretty good. Anyway, that's enough about Paris Saint-Germain and the Champions League. Let's get to the crux of the issue, the reason we're here, mate. We're going to talk about our predictions for the upcoming Premier League season. Paul, this is where we put our necks on the line and talk about how we think the season's going to pan out. Who's a lock for the coveted top four? Which three sides are going to face the dreaded drop? Which manager leads the sack race? Also, I'd love to hear any players you think are going to have a massive impact, either in a good way or a bad way on the Premier League this year. Just the usual stuff where we can look back in 38 weeks and say, geez, how wrong were we? So let's kick things off. I'm going to put myself on the line here too, so it's not just you sticking your head on the chopping block, mate. Let's start with top four positions. What have you got for me?
All right, I'm gonna go with I'm picking Chelsea to win it.
Oh,
going. Yeah, that's right. That's okay. Right, man. A little
okay.
Little upset here.
I like it. I'm into it. Yeah, please do go on.
I'm gonna go with City to finish second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with United third. I'm gonna go with Liverpool fourth. And sorry, Leicester. I mean, Leicester had a good transfer window, and I think they got a lot better. But I think Leicester's going to be on the outside looking in again.
Yeah, I'm much the same. Before we discuss this too much, I'll just throw mine out there, which is essentially the same, but I'll flip the top two. I think City are going to do it again. I think Tuchel in charge of Chelsea. They've just looked the goods, so they're going to finish second. Pains me, Paul. It pains me to say this. Manchester United will finish third, and I think Liverpool will finish fourth. And I do have Leicester on the outside looking in fifth place yet again. So Chelsea to win the league. Tell me your thoughts behind that.
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that under Tuchel, they just don't concede. They just do not give up goals. And now that it's a full season with his system and his players and what they need to do, and you can see the difference down the line. Another key is that they're the only ones who figured out how to beat City as they did last year, which kind of reminds me of Liverpool of 2 years ago when City had that insane, crazy season in which they broke all the records, but yet Liverpool had the secret sauce. They knew how to beat them. Chelsea had that last year. I think they're going to bring that back. And then most importantly, they solve their issue. Who is that center forward? Who is the finisher? They've got the guys in the wings. They got the attacking midfielders to provide service. They just need somebody who's clinical. And now that they got it in Lukaku. So I'm going out on a limb and I'm taking the Blues.
Well, that's high risk, high reward. They're all very reasonable arguments. I just feel like over the marathon, that's the Premier League. I feel like City, they've got the formula. They know how to do it. They can do it when they start slow. They can dominate a season. They can come home with a wet sail. This is not to say I don't think Chelsea will be there. I do think Chelsea, much like Liverpool 2-3 years ago, I think they'll keep pace with them, and they'll definitely be more of an exciting title race than what we've had for the last couple of seasons. But I just think Manchester City will get over the line. I think Manchester United in third, which we both agree upon. I think their signings despite what I wrote on the website, I don't have heaps of faith in Ollie, but defense was a big issue for them. They've signed Rafael Varane, one of the greatest centre backs of the last decade. And, they've spiced up that front line with Jadon Sancho. So I think that they'll probably get that third place position. As I referenced before, it pains me to say this, but I do think that they'll finish above Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Liverpool, they did make a signing early on, and it was in a position of need, and I give them credit for that, but they kind of held pat. And, when you kind of stand still, you're actually falling behind. So
Absolutely.
obviously they're going to be better with guys getting healthy, but with United, I get it. There's so much backlash for Ole. Like, I get these really funny but like harsh comments on Instagram from this United fan in Scotland, and the reason it's so funny is because it's actually through his cat's Instagram account. So the avatar is this cute little kitten, and the messages are all these like expletives and all these horrible things about Ole being in over his head. And
oh wow, that sounds funny.
Like the screenshot would really do it justice. It would really make it even funnier. So
okay, maybe we can drop a screenshot in the episode description or a link to it for people to have a look at. All right, we've crowned the champions, and who are going to make those coveted European positions? Which three sides do you think are facing the dreaded drop this season?
I agree with you in that Crystal Palace could be the worst team in the league and one of the worst ever. I feel they were kind of a mess. I don't think they really had a plan. I think they had at least stability before, so I would put them in that mix.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brighton is next.
Yep.
There's a lot of mixed opinions about Ben White. There's some people that saying like, Arsenal overpaid. There were some other better guys in the team, but I don't know. I think he's a quality player, and I think center backs are tough to get. And if you got a good one, you got to hold on to it. So I would put them next, and then I'm really kind of torn on the last slot. I kind of want to go with Watford because the last time they got relegated, they were really just kind of a joke. They were a mess, and that they kept firing their managers that season, especially at the end when if they didn't fire their manager, they could have stayed up. The new manager knows what he's doing, and I give him credit for that. But I think it really comes down to them or Norwich, and I think Norwich is going to hold on.
So I couldn't agree with you more. I think Crystal Palace and Watford are the worst teams in the league, without question. Patrick Vieira, I know he had some success with New York City FC early in his career. His spell at Nice was underwhelming, to say the least. They had the usual new manager bump when he came in, but they crashed and burned pretty hard in his second season. And I just think you don't bring in a manager of such little experience to basically oversee a rebuild of your entire squad, and I think that's gonna blow up in their face. Watford are a one-man team without Ismail Assar, which hopefully they can hold on to make them somewhat competitive. They're going to be in for a tough time this year. And then I think, I did go out on a limb and list my 20 on the website, but I do think it's a toss-up between Norwich, Brighton, and, maybe Southampton too for that last spot. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Norwich too. So we actually agree on those. Norwich, Watford, Crystal Palace.
Southampton, yeah. Last year was really something. There was a brief period early on when they were top of the table, and then they kind of came back to earth. And then when Southampton loses, that's kind of what they're known for. They lose with authority.
They really do. No one loses like Southampton. And, they've also lost Ryan Bertrand, who's a stalwart at left back for them. And, Danny Ings has been picked up by Aston Villa. So, I do fear for them a little bit. But I'm kind of playing it safe by putting the newly promoted club in the 18th spot there. So,
well, maybe Southampton will finish 17th then or 16th. They'll just get by.
Yeah, but maybe. Who knows? Who knows? We're definitely going out on a limb here, mate. Okay, this is an interesting one. I've got some pretty firm opinions on this, but which managers or manager do you think is leading the sack race as the season begins?
Honestly, I can only think of one, and that's because I'm surprised he's still here. Because when you lead a club that has that much tradition and that much money and power, and you're now without European football for the first time in a quarter century, and you're still here, it's got to be Mikel Arteta.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more for all those reasons. And the fact that, like, when you watch them on the pitch, I don't know what they're trying to achieve. You know, I don't think they've got an identity as far as a playing style. I think they lack leaders. I think Aubameyang, brilliant player, weak leader. I know that might be a little bit harsh, but that's my pick too. Mikel Arteta, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's exactly it. I was actually going to get into that next. The fact that this is your captain, this is your captain speaking, and he's underachieving. I mean, how much longer are we going to go on with Aubameyang is, not living up to who he is or what he's about until we finally decide, well, okay, maybe that is who he is. Maybe that is what he's about. I mean, I felt their preseason was kind of lackluster. It was lacking, and they didn't show a lot of interest, and that reflects obviously on the manager, and then that reflects on the team captain. And if they're not interested, this season could really get off the rails in a hurry.
It could get ugly for Arsenal. On the Aubameyang topic, I'm sorry to step on your toes there, mate, but on the Aubameyang topic, I think some players are just not suited for leadership roles. You know, he was banging in the goals, and he was fantastic. And then they've whacked that captain's armband on him, and it seems like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, or at least North London at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's an insane fan base, and they got really spoiled for a long time, and I'm not sure they're really coping with this too well, and that's understandable because they've had to deal with this idea of redefining success downward. It was it used to be competing for titles and cups, and then it was just Wenger had that amazing streak of what they always finished in the top four, but then that's all they did. And then now, then they were in the Europa League a few years in a row, and then now I don't even know what is the standard. And obviously the pressure gets to a lot of guys.
Redefining success. That's what they've had to do. Absolutely, I couldn't put it better myself. And I do fear for Mikel Arteta. Okay, so moving on from, the looming sack cloud that seems to be following Mikel Arteta around, just as an honourable mention or dishonourable mention in that category, I don't think it would take much for Rafa Benitez to get the sack from Everton either. I think a couple of bad results, and the fans will be getting on the board's case pretty quick smart. So
yeah, that is so weird. What a strange hire.
Yeah, it is an odd one. It's I honestly don't see the sense about it. It's no secret that I'm a Liverpool fan, and I remember the press conference when Rafa Benitez called them a small club, and thinking, take that, Blues. And now he's coaching them. I don't know if the roles were reversed. Well, I'd like to think there's no way the Liverpool board would hire someone who'd said that about the club. So it's just so odd. I mean, he's a legend of Liverpool, so I wish him well. Not too well, but I just think the dynamic there is a little bit toxic, and it's not going to take a lot for there to be some pressure on him, and therefore the board to remove him of his duties.
Well, if Ancelotti couldn't deliver a trophy and he couldn't fix it, granted his time there was kind of short. I mean, why are we thinking Rafa's going to be the guy to turn it around?
Absolutely. I mean, Ancelotti, I'm actually, I feel like he was building something there at Everton, and it's a shame that he got pulled away from the job. The lure of Real Madrid is too strong for some managers. But like you said, if the Italian maestro can't get the job done, why could the Spanish waiter? Anyway, Okay, so let's finish this section off. Let's talk about some players we think might make a noise in the Premier League this year. I've gone for 3 categories. I'm kind of springing this on you here, but top goal scorer, player of the season, and signing of the season.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with signing of the season, and I'm gonna go with a total homer picker. I'm gonna go with Jadon Sancho.
Okay.
Mason Greenwood was actually off to a great start, and he does kind of fulfill a need there. But United, I feel what they need is to be more clinical. They need to finish. Unfortunately, Marcus Rashford is out until October. Sancho will only play a few minutes, if even that, on the weekend. But once he gets going, I for the life of me, I don't understand why Gareth Southgate didn't give Sancho more of a role and more playing time during the Euro. But I do think he's amazing. I think he's going to make a huge difference maker. Oh, top goal scorer. Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to go with Jamie Vardy on that. I've seen kind of some back and forths here and there between Harry Kane, Jamie Vardy. Obviously Sadio Mane, Mo Salah has been in there. Mm-hmm. I think basically the Golden Boot will be up for grabs in that Kane's ankles have been an issue, and then I really think his uncertain future and all the distractions and the holdout and all the off the pitch issues, I think that's going to kind of affect him a lot, and not in a good way. I think it'll be in an adverse way, and I think Vardy is going to be the one to step in to kind of fill that void. Player of the season. It's definitely going to be someone on Chelsea.
Okay.
If I really want to go out on a limb here and really kind of put it out there and take something kind of outside the box.
Okay.
I would go with Mason Mount.
Wow. Okay. Mason Mount. He's incredibly talented player. So I don't see why he shouldn't be in the reckoning. He had a fantastic Euros. He's built as a player over the past 18 months or so, and he's really become a vital cog down there at Stamford Bridge. So I think that's a great choice, Mason Mount.
I mean, yeah, and obviously all the attention is going to be on Conte and what he does and how he creates. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of attention on Lukaku for the goals he's going to score. But if you ask me, down the stretch last season when Chelsea were dominating, Mason Mount was the guy that was undroppable. He was more undroppable than anybody. So That's it. I'm sticking with my outside the box, my sleeper pick. I'm going with that.
Well, I support you, mate. It's good. So just so you're not the only one out there putting his neck on the line, I'm going to go player of the season. Geez, I almost just automatically said Mohamed Salah. Do you know that? I almost just said it without even thinking. That's it.
Yeah, it's like a reflex.
It is a bit of a reflex.
A Liverpool fan, yeah.
I actually think that okay, I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here too. And my signing of the season, top goal scorer, and player of the season are all going to be the same player. I'm going to go with Romelu Lukaku. I think he's got a point to prove, not only in the Premier League, but in the blue of Chelsea. I think he's proven himself everywhere else he's gone, except for, I could probably get your opinion on this. It's probably a bit more balanced than mine. A bit of a poor period at Manchester United, would you say?
Yeah, I think the fact that he came in so high priced, there was a lot of hype in that, in which United kind of sniped him at the last minute from Chelsea. Mm-hmm. And then there's always going to be that stigma about Jose Mourinho that he is a defensive oriented manager. That's true. And his teams are defense first, but this idea that, you're never going to be your best if you're a forward under him, and maybe that had something to do with it. Or maybe there's just been this kind of, it's like Paul Pogba hasn't lived up to the hype. Angel Di Maria didn't live up to the hype. Alexis Sanchez was a bust. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we won't say the same thing about Sancho. Maybe there is something in like the Ed Woodward era of big signings going to United and not living up to the hype.
Little bit of a poison chalice situation.
Yeah. And that's all I can't explain it any more than that. Like, yeah, it's a weird kind of curse, and maybe that's what it was. But
yeah, well, so it does seem like with the like of Bruno Fernandes, you've turned the corner in that regard because he was simply phenomenal last season. But yeah,
yes, just like Edison Cavani turned the luck of the 7 shirt. You had 2 or 3 guys that were total busts and wearing the iconic legendary 7 shirt, and now with Cavani, that's changed. So
it has changed,
right.
Absolutely. So just to recap, I've gone Lukaku for all 3. You've gone Sancho, Vardy, and Mason Mount for your 3. We will revisit this in 9.5 months and see how way off the mark we are or how spot on we are. I love doing this kind of stuff. It's always good for a laugh or to pat yourself on the shoulder or whatever when the season finishes.
Yeah, I think Chelsea fans are going to really love listening to this podcast. That's what I think.
The first week of fixtures is right upon us, with the season kicking off at Premier League new boys Brentford at their community stadium as they take on Arsenal. How do you see that one going, Paul?
Kind of referring back to an earlier discussion, I think that's trouble for Arsenal because I think they may not be all in for this. We've questioned their heart desire. Brentford is going to be extremely fired up because this is the first time they've been in the top flight since the 40s. This is the first time they've ever been up in the top flight in the Premier League era. So I'm going to say it's a draw.
It's a draw. Yeah, I concur. I'm not going to be quite as kind, though. I'm thinking that the Premier League new boys Brentford are going to chalk up the 3 points, and the pressure is immediately going to go on Mikel Arteta, and I don't think it's going to let up for the rest of the season or the rest of his tenure in the dugout. Next up, this is one of the games I really want to focus on, and I'm sure you're very keen to talk about, Paul. It's probably one of the most bitter rivalries in the Premier League. Manchester United versus Leeds United at Old Trafford with fans in the stadium. This is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. It's going to be one of the matches of the round. Tell me how you see this one's panning out, mate.
I see the potential of major trouble for United here because they were so much a better road team than home team last season. Like you said, it is a bitter rival. Leeds was a very tough out for everybody last term. They came up, they held their ground. I think they're gonna not have a sophomore slump. The fact that United could be without as many as 9 key players, and like really important players too. And then it's not just the guys who be injured or out. There's some guys who may play a little bit role off the bench. They're on extended holiday after international duty. They're coming in. That said, United won this fixture 6-2 last year, so I think they can squeak it out. I think this is going to be the game where United supporters remember what they loved about David De Gea, because we all thought he was gone. After the Europa League final, we all thought what a sad, tragic way for his career to end, but he's back. And I think he's going to save them literally and metaphorically.
Okay, that's very interesting. So you're picking a United win or a draw, or how do you see this one finishing?
I think it's going to be a VAR-assisted, controversial 2-1 win.
At least we both know it won't be an armpit offside. They've done away with those this year, so thank God.
Yeah.
I personally think that I think this is going to be a goal fest. I think it's going to be huge. It's just, honestly, it's one of the games I'm most excited about this weekend because it is a bit of rivalry. We're going to have plenty of fans in the stadium. It's going to feel like proper football is back. I actually think you guys will get over the line in a goal fest. I do have an interesting stat here. United's last 5 opening games in a Premier League campaign has seen a player score their first league goal for the club. Ibrahimovic in 16-17, Lukaku in 17-18, Luke Shaw in 18-19, David James in 19-20, and Donny van der Beek last season. I think you can add Jadon Sancho off the bench, scoring the winner to that list and keeping that United tradition alive. I think a 3-2 win for United.
I like it. I didn't know that stat. I know we've been good. I know we've beat Leicester a couple times in openers and beat Chelsea in the opener, but I didn't know that about the new goal scorer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yep, I'm putting my analytical brain on and not my fan brain on, and I'm going to say United will get the 3 points, and it'll be a great start to the season for you guys. Okay, next up. So we get to the traditional time fixtures now. Burnley, Brighton. We'll just fire through these ones a little bit rapid fire, and if you've got any comments that you want to add to the games, just feel free, mate. So Burnley, Brighton at Turf Moor.
I'm going to go with Burnley. I think both these teams will fight it out to stay up, but I think Burnley's got the better quality.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the home side here. As much as I'm excited for Manchester United, Leeds United, I'm equally as unexcited to watch Burnley play Brighton, but I do think Burnley will get the win at Turf Moor. A bit of a London derby at Stamford Bridge with Chelsea taking on Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a blowout. I think that's going to be very one-sided given what we said. I'm going to go with Chelsea big.
Yep, absolutely. As they say in the EA Sports FIFA games, this one could be a cricket score. Chelsea 5 or 6-0 over Crystal Palace, I think. Moving to Goodison Park, where Everton will face Southampton.
Oh, man. Yeah, two sides that are really in trouble.
I think we can put them in that category of Burnley and Brighton. This will not be a pretty game to watch.
I'm going to take the Saints as an up. I guess they're probably, I don't know what the line is, but I'm guessing Southampton's the underdog. I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, the line. So Southampton are paying $4. Everton are $1.90. I actually think Southampton will win that one too. And much like Arteta, the pressure is going to be amped right up on Rafa from day one. Off to the King Power. Leicester City against the Nuno Espirito Santo less Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, Leicester have started fast recently, and I don't think that's going to change. I think Wolverhampton are going to be all right in the long run with the transition, but I'm going to take the Foxes.
Yeah, I think the Foxes they're up at the moment. The fantastic Foxes. They've got a trophy in their cabinet already. Brendan Rodgers seems like he's got them up and about. And I think that they'll satisfy the home fans with the 3 points there. Watford take on Aston Villa next up.
I'm going to go with Villa. I think they actually are going to be able to recover from the departure of Grealish. They spent some money. They filled some holes. You know, as we said, Watford's kind of a mess.
Yep, absolutely. I think Aston Villa will win. And this is getting a bit specific here, but I like making these specific predictions and either making an idiot of myself or looking like a genius. Danny Ings with a hat-trick in that one, I think. He's going to start on fire, and Aston Villa might finish the game week 1 top of the table. Then we head to Carrow Road, Norwich City taking on the mighty, my beloved Liverpool. How do you see that one ending, mate?
Yeah, I think Liverpool will cruise in this one. I think this is going to be one where Klopp really kind of puts the hammer down, the pedal to the metal, and really kind of pushes it. So it could be a blowout.
Okay. Well, I'm tentative here. I don't want to jinx anyone, but I do think Liverpool have enough to take care of Norwich as they did 2 seasons ago. And if a victory over Norwich can kick off a season like our last victory over Norwich in the first game of the season, I'll be a happy man. But I'm not getting ahead of myself. Just put the W down for Liverpool, and we'll see where that takes us. St. James's Park is next. Newcastle and West Ham.
Definitely West Ham. They were a great story last year. David Moyes is probably managing as great as he ever has, or as good as he ever has since his Everton days. And as we talked, Newcastle, Newcastle has always been kind of. Lately, they've just been this kind of side that settles for draws or settles for stalemate or just kind of parking the bus or whatever they do. And I could see the Hammers coming in and, taking over the game and having their way with it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. As I said on my preview for Newcastle, they've just, in the past decade or so, maybe even 15 years, they've just become a parody of themselves. It's sad what's happened to the club. They've got a great stadium. The city is football mad. It's just sad. But, one of my best mates is a West Ham supporter. And I think he's going to walk away this weekend very happy when West Ham get a very easy victory.
Well, like you wrote in your preview, like they could have, what they need is an owner, and they came close. There was a very rich Middle Eastern group that was looking to buy him, and it looked like they would get their sugar daddy owner and things would turn around, but it didn't happen. And until they get that, I just don't see a way up for them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I will add that I do think if they can get a Abramovich or an oil rich type owner, I think look out because they're a big club, they're football mad. I'd still think that when I don't want to say success because they didn't win any trophies, but when they were up and about in the late 90s, that's still recent enough that players would be like, oh, yeah, I remember when Shearer was there and banging in the goals. So I do feel like it could turn into a bit of a destination club if they could get that owner situation figured out.
Well, I have been to that stadium and I have been to that town, and I completely agree with everything you say, that is, I guess we could call it like a sleeping giant. It's waiting there for someone, a market that tapped into, and it would just be huge.
To finish things off here, this is another game I want to look at just a little bit more forensically. Let's call this the Harry Kane Cup. It's Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City.
Yeah, the Harry Kane Cup is the perfect way to bill it. I mean, it's interesting in that I think Tottenham, they seem to be, to borrow your phrase of Newcastle, a parody of themselves earlier this summer when it took them forever to get a manager and they were on their fourth or fifth choice or whatever it was. They've quietly had a good transfer window. They got it going late. They started to fill some holes, and I think they're going to be improved. I do like Nuno a lot. Flipping over to City, like I said, I don't quite understand why they went out and got another winger. It seems like winger is, they've got enough talent and depth there as it is, but if you're the reigning champions, they did lose Aguero, obviously. They lost Garcia. But when you break the record and you buy the most expensive player in British history to replace them, do they not miss a beat? No, I don't think City misses a beat. So, yeah, obviously I'm going to go with City here. But they do have weird kind of games where they just kind of like Norwich beat them a couple years ago. Yeah, like these things do happen, but I don't think it's going to happen here.
Okay, I actually completely agree with you there, mate. I think Manchester City will win. I do have an interesting stat for this one. I like having a little bit of a stat for these games that we go into a little bit more forensically here. It goes like this. Manchester City have lost their last 3 away games against Tottenham in all competitions. Against no side in his career has manager Pep Guardiola lost 4 away games in a row. So I think that's telling. Pep is, he's different class, and I think he's going to keep that proud record of his of never losing 4 away games to a specific club ever intact, and Manchester City will win that one. I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to go Harry Kane to draw a blank in front of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium fans, and probably end up finishing the window at Manchester City. That's my predictions. How do you feel about your predictions, mate?
Well, that is the latest. Is that like now I think there's been a break. There's been a breakthrough in which the club are going to let him go. And it may take a while. Yeah, that's kind of what I read, is they're ready to accept the fact that he needs to move on. But then again, I think we've heard this before, so.
Yeah, if I'm honest, when I seen that they paid 55 million for Christian Romero, the Argentinian centre back, that's when I started getting a bit of alarm bells if I was a Tottenham fan, because it's not like Levy to sanction a $55 million deal if he didn't have a substantial amount of money coming back into the coffers.
And they've been linked with that Inter Milan striker, Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's a tell as well.
I think much like I've mentioned to you, I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the pod or off the pod, but if Harry Kane signs for Manchester City, it's game over for the rest of the league. I mean, he's a striker that bangs in 20 goals for fun, 25 if he's trying, So yeah. If they add that to the squad they've got already, I mean, it's almost back to where we started the pod with Paris Saint-Germain. Is that even fair? You know?
I completely agree. Then I'd have to change my prediction entirely. I mean, then you're talking about City winning the league by like 10, 15, 20 points.
Absolutely. That exciting title race that I spoke about when we were making our prediction completely goes up in smoke if Harry Kane moves to the Etihad. So there you go, everyone. There are our predictions. We'll see how they fared next week. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Paul, for joining me on the very first episode of After Extra Time. Is there anything you want to tell all our listeners out there? What have you got going on? This is your shot. Plug yourself away.
I'm really excited that the league is getting started again. The season's getting going. I'm going to be doing some book signings at pubs here in my hometown. The different bars that are affiliated with different clubs throughout August, September, and October. And for everybody listening online, you can get it. If you go to thesportsbank.net, there's a page. It just says the Sports Bank Premier League book. That'll take you. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Paul M. Banks, and it's my pinned tweet right at the top. And you can get the link to Transatlantic Passage, how the English Premier League redefined soccer in America, on that link as well.
Excellent, mate. Get the book. I can't speak highly enough of it. Get to the pubs if you're in the Chicago area. Get on the sportsbank.net. You can find some stuff from me and a lot of great stuff from Paul and all the other great writers there. Thanks again, Paul. I'll be back next week with an in-depth look of the first weekend of fixtures. Enjoy the league, everyone.